But before I get to what's happening with your sign for this month, I just want to mention these two long-running transits, Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus, Pluto. Now, Uranus, Pluto, if you've been following the astrology, you'll know is very much in the background towards, you know, kind of economic global meltdown, and basically it's very the challenging the social structures, the status quo, the establishment, and shifting things which have been taken for granted socially, economically, culturally for hundreds and hundreds of years. And this is still going on, even though technically they've moved further apart. They're still pretty close. And as I've said more than once previously, it's not over till it's over. And we shouldn't be looking to think, okay, we can rest on our laurels now until we get into 2020s. Now for Saturn, Neptune. Well, Saturn, Neptune was hanging in the air a lot earlier this year, around about the time, and of course Neptune rules the seas, and it rules mysterious illnesses, things that can't be pinned down, you know. So of the Ebola outbreak, also refugees traveling with children across very, very treacherous terrain to get to the safety, as they thought, of Western Europe, and being, I mean, a lot died on the way, plucked out of the seas, mostly the Mediterranean, and being tricked and cheated by people, those sharks, basically, who wanted their money and then just left them to die on boats and so on in the Mediterranean. Also had their way barred at Calais, trying to get through the tunnel to the UK, which they see as sort of the promised land in a way, which, you know, everything's relative. So it probably is, it really, really is. We all have to have our promised land. We all have to have it, even if it's just, you know, our favorite sort of celebs on the TV. I mean, it's kind of just our promised land, you know. It's potential of what can be. So it's called hope. It's called that star of hope. And now Saturn is the planet of physical boundaries, material structures. It's also about the status quo, the establishment, and Neptune is very, very ethereal. It's kind of without boundaries. And it's ideological, but it's also about victimization. It's about escape, among other things, and trying to do basically the highest manifestation maybe is compassionate, trying to do the best for the common good, for the whole of all, with all sort of personal desires and ego put on one side. So it's definitely the planet of higher service. Now, these sort of notions are far too sort of ambiguous and airy-fairy and head in the clouds for Saturn, who wants to apply a system to a situation. And it's sort of like top-down, you know, it's kind of the government. So Saturn asks, okay, the how, and wants to deal with the nuts and bolts of the situation. And of course, here we are in this dimension of nuts and bolts, of dualism. So the Neptunian vibration of wholeness and union needs to be, we need to find practical ways to apply things so that it relieves suffering, and it makes sense out of the randomness and the chaos of things, which is more up Neptune Street. So and Neptune's about a heck of a lot else than that as well. But just, you know, for this example, Saturn rules authority figures, and also cares about appearances, cares about traditions and historical standards. But also on the flip side, Saturn is this very, very caring, responsible mother energy, which wants to protect and guard and guide and provide for others, okay, for those in her care. Now, these two planets are a very sort of an angle which makes a lot of friction. And so therefore it's kind of a pressure cooker energy, the same as Uranus Pluto, in fact. And that particular angle seems to be quite adept at manifesting, you know, events in the world, situations in the world, which we in the world have to, on the one hand, take the lesson from as we're grappling with it and struggling with it and trying to figure it out, but also and then get the resolution to it. But also we have to maybe not just bemoan the fact that the thing is happening, or the things are happening, whether it's in your private life, which you can probably find in your natal chart, how that might be triggering off each other and then figure out how best to deal with it, so that you keep it harnessed, and then you can really get things more how you want them to be, or in the wider world. Okay, so we need to it's not about what happens, it's about how we respond to what happens. It's always about how we respond to what happens. So at the moment, Saturn is in Sagittarius, which is about long journeys, foreign cultures, different ideologies, different belief systems. Religion, of course, is a big one with Sagittarius, and the higher law. And Neptune is very much about higher laws as well, but even beyond the human realms. It's about total integration and wholeness and individuation and union. So we need to do the best we can with Saturn coming out of Sagittarius. There will be issues around other people's ideologies and belief systems, religions. There will be issues around maybe integration as well of those whose cultural background is very different to another cultural background, and this is all in the mix. It's all to do with coming into the age of Aquarius as our consciousness raises and we actually become aware of these things, whereas 100 years ago we wouldn't have been. We'd have just kind of, oh well, our consciousness wouldn't have let us, just sweep it under the carpet. We don't go there. We don't do that. Saturn is also about the shadow side of us, our psyches as well. So maybe a little bit more of the shadow side coming out here too. Things again which have been maybe taboo or kept from us because of course now we have the internet, and the whole world is becoming a village. We're in a global village. So anyway, it seems to me that Saturn in Sagittarius and Neptune at home very strongly coming out of its own sign Pisces brings in a new kind of confusion and uncertainty about how we help the needy without having the greedy pulling the wool over our eyes. And we could apply this thinking to different situations, like perhaps gun laws in certain parts of the world, and keeping tabs on, who's selling weapons to who, etc., behind the scenes. And I know that's only just the real tip of the iceberg, because it's grassroots stuff is about actually the changing of the hearts of many here. And really, I think, in fact, there is kind of coming in this split, as many saw in the run-up to 2012. There was this two-world split. And those of you who were aware of that, can you see how that's happening now? It's very interesting, isn't it? So how to execute the compassionate service required in an orderly, practical, structured fashion. It's quite a dilemma. So our task is to try and balance a higher vision and empathy and emotional intelligence. There's a lot of clever guys out there and gals. But let's have some emotional intelligence. Let's have some emotional common sense. And I don't mean emotional reactiveness. I mean a feeling common sense. And marry that up with realistic possibilities. Anyway, I'll get off the soapbox. So these two, Saturn, Neptune, have a look and see where they're transiting in your chart. I'll mention that to do with the sun sign charts. And you can even look at the house position, so see which house position they're in, and also maybe even the signs they ruled, which is Capricorn and Pisces. And it might be quite enlightening. Now, other news for you, Capricorn. Saturn has gone into the sign before yours, and so this is in some ways going to be a time of clearing up loose ends from the past, time of preparation for when Saturn comes into your sign at the end of 2017. And you could be doing more inner work during this time. You could be being there more for others, or having to deal with health issues. Perhaps this is one of the ways Saturn might work in this area here. You might be looking at the consequences of past behaviors or decisions which have led to certain things going on now. But during this transit, you will just be, I think, keeping a lower profile, and some people won't realize just maybe how much you are doing, or maybe you don't want them to, or maybe how much you are doing on their behalf or have done on their behalf. Either way, it's a time of preparation and clearing out the baggage, if you want to call it that, from the past, some of which will be, I suppose, baggage or ballast. You Capricorns born the 25th to the 30th January, or with 3 to 8 degrees rising, going to feel this energy the most. And of course, Saturn in this position here means that you may be called upon to really step up to the plate, to be there for others, even when you are not in the mood. Just to follow on from what I was saying before, Neptune is in your third house area, so you might like to look that up, because you can find out anything on the internet nowadays about astrology, or different positions in astrology. So if you just look up Neptune going through your third house, part of the third house is to do with communications, but one of the major things to do with communications and education and the way we think is actually listening and really hearing and really paying attention and taking notice. So actually it's not just all about the blah blah blah. It's about being very calm, being very silent, and being very receptive. So there's just sort of drop that into the pool of your mind there. Now until the 23rd, the solar energy is in a really forward moving area where you can become more involved in a community of others, kindred spirits, people where you feel as though there's a kind of a group context going on. And maybe also another way this can work is that you are now free to move forwards with something you've been waiting to move forwards with. Mercury is also there, so it's likely to be a period in which to discuss and consider matters to do with the future. It's got a very futuristic sort of feel to it, and others could find you articulate, or you could be very inspired by what others have to say as well, and very much in experimental, exploratory sort of mood with this one here. And then they both move. Mercury moves on the 21st into this quieter background area, the one I mentioned about a minute ago, or a few minutes ago, to do with the Saturn transit. And then almost immediately, 2 days later, the Sun moves into there as well. So it takes the huge emphasis out of this really quite outgoing, forward-moving area into the stiller waters of the background area, where you become more introspective and maybe more open to what you're feeling. And more open in general to what others are feeling as well. And you could find yourself being uncertain about this or that or the other thing as well. But it is a great time for doing healing practices, remedies, therapies, and the like, and cooperating or joining together with people in a behind-the-scenes way in this little sphere of their own. In like some specialist area, okay? That's more likely with Mercury and the Sun here. The Sun is going to be there, as I say, from the 23rd, so more going on in a behind-the-scenes way, in a more preparatory sort of manner, in your very private life. Maybe the others in the outside world, except the nearest and dearest, would not see, or even they would maybe not see. It depends on what it is. You'll probably have to put aside your personal desires and just get on with some kind of procedure, program, something you've set yourself to do, or something you've just got to go and do because someone who has a knowledge outside of, I was going to say superior to yours, but yes, superior, I suppose, more knowledge on a subject has advised you to do. And others, again, won't fully realize, just quite what you're taking on. This is a karmic house. So the Sun and Mercury and Saturn all in that one together. That will be from very, very late on in the month. Then we have Venus, up until the 9th, Venus is supporting warm relationships with experts, actually, teachers, but also from those from far away, or those with a very different cultural background, language maybe, or it can be that just somebody comes along who very much expands your thinking, and you begin to join up the dot. You begin to see the whole of the picture of the puzzle instead of just little isolated pieces. So that's always nice and a breath of fresh air. And you do not feel alone usually in that area there, because there's somebody sort of going along with you through it. And then from the 9th, and therefore for most of the month, Venus is in an area making circumstances more favorable, where you feel scrutinized, or maybe with authority figures, or with the status quo or establishment or bureaucracy or officials. You get a bit of help there. Again, it might be you and somebody else in that situation, or in fact you make an ally in that situation. Now both of those transits of Venus and in the they are the 9th and the 10th houses, are accompanied by Mars. So you get Venus and Mars in the 9th and Venus and Mars in the 10th, and Venus and Mars together are all right tonight. So that's just the title of a song, Wings. Yeah, and so and those two are a great pair. I often call them Barbie and Ken, because Venus isn't really all that pink and fluffy, but it could be Barbie and Ken, you know, because Mars comes along with the muscle that may be the stamina and the drive, because actually I was going to say Venus can have her muscle as well. I mean, you know, Venusian, famous Venusian people like in the UK, Margaret Thatcher, she had muscle. But of course, the opposite planet to Venus is actually Mars. So one is a very feminine energy, one is a very masculine energy, but actually they have different kinds of muscle. So without going off too much on a tangent, that's all I wanted to say. So you get this energy really fired up, this area fired up by the energy of Mars in both of these areas that I've mentioned, both with the teachers or specialists or people from different cultures, to finding an ally with an official or some kind of authority type figure. And you can be successful with the master plan, very much so, with Venus and Mars together here, from Mars there from the 13th. Even though you might get a bit frustrated at times with the power that be, you can be successful and make progress with the master plan. And Jupiter will be working out of his own house in your solar chart, and helping you to push the envelope of your life. And in Jupiter is in a wonderful angle to your solar to your sun sign over the next nearly 12 months now. Capricorns born 5th to the 11th of January, or 15 to 21 degrees rising, are going to feel their energy the most this forecast period, and that's it. If you want to check up on any of this information, there's probably a bit more written up on my website than I've said to you here. And also listen to your moon sign or your rising sign. That will give you a different angle on what I've been saying here. Flesh it out a bit, and I'll see you the next time.